Thank you, Solis.
And then, of course, there's always the emphasis of the collaboration across the departments. So I'll make sure that those who are on the present, the circles of Wyoming, continue to all of us. The other thing is that the public forum. So our council, these are council members present. Everyone, whenever there's a new council present, that is to be exposed, like in the ground. And so we will report out anything that we come up with, the items that we made in public, related or our so here actually, but this is really more public, our open ability and I think that's important. So with that, we'll turn it over to Archie.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? That's good? Okay. Well, I want to tell everybody who's out there and of this nature, I wish it was something more pleasing. Obviously, this isn't, but I want to kind of go over why we're having this forum tonight, and I'm going to kind of go over like kind of a scripted. Are they trying to get in? I don't know if they can get in or not. I'm going to go over a scripted thing that I have written out, basically kind of going over why we're here, the causes I feel why we're having these incidences, the enforcement, which I want to relate it to citizens to make sure that we actually provide a safe community for everybody here, and the things that we're going to end up doing and we're going to continue to do. And then I want to go into kind of somewhat some of the educational things that we do at the police department to kind of reach out to the youth so they do not fall in some of these traps that some youth do. And then I'll have one final message. But I want to start out by, obviously, I think everyone knows to date, as of January, when we first started the first of the year, to today, we've had 11 shootings. Probably about 85 to 95% of them were gang related, and some were had nothing to do with any type of gang activity. You know, back, I think it was maybe a few months back, somebody had asked me what I thought why this was happening. You know, when I start really thinking about it, I said, it could be, COVID. It could have been a lot of things, but I think I really feel that COVID has a really big impact. And the reason why I feel that it does, because ever since COVID started, I believe back in February, March, when it actually really started going, I started to see the impacts that basically what came from it. One of them was I saw that inmates were being released from jail. We were getting quite a few of them. I actually had asked probation, and it was anywhere from about 100 to 200 a month being let out. And it was actually going on their workload. So in other words, people that should have been staying in state corrections were actually being released and going to being put on probation. Secondly, one of the biggest things that I saw was the no bail from the county courts and actually the jails, because of the COVID, the way it hit, they didn't want it to infect the population of the jail. So most low-level crimes weren't being booked into Merced County Jail. You saw court delays where a lot of stuff wasn't being put on the calendar. And all this basically, I think, hit ahead. And now what you're seeing across the county, what you're seeing all over, actually, you're seeing in California and other states, you're seeing a spike in violence, gang violence. We actually see a spike in domestic violence. Those are probably two of the major things that we're seeing right now. I actually was looking at an article that came out on September 22nd, and it's gotten so bad in some of the areas. I actually looked in Fresno, and I'm quoting him through Channel 30 Action News, which he came out, a lieutenant from Fresno Police Department, came out and said that the average person should be concerned about the level of violence in their community. I don't think it's gotten to that point. I think we should always be aware of what's going on in our community. I mean, it's the same thing like I tell my wife, you always have to be aware of your surroundings because you never know what's going to happen. Those are things that, in this day and age, that you can't be overcautious. You really can't. And those are the things that we try to tell our citizens, and we tell people, unfortunately, that have been victim of crimes, that you always have to be cognizant of what's going on around you. If it looks bad in some way, shape, or form, if you can get away from it, then do that. One of the things, though, that we're not going to do is we're not going to sit down and take this lightly. We are going to start enforcing. We've already started it, where I'm putting more officers on the street. It's going to be on overtime, but it's going to be mandatory where I have officers, because my number one responsibility is to the citizens of this community. So we're going to have more officers at the times that we're seeing that these spikes of violence happening, so I can get better coverage to make sure that if we can curb this, if that's one of the ways I can do it, I'm going to do it. I've reached out to other agencies, Merced Police Department, Gustine, Los Banos, Probation, the Gang Task Force. I've reached out, and one of the things that I want my investigators to do is to start getting a lot of intel, because there's a reason why, not only the COVID, but there's other reasons why gangs do things, and that's probably a whole nother area. But I want them to start finding out who the people are behind these things, and usually the way gangs work, they usually cross boundaries from one city to the other. So that's one of the things that I've instructed my supervisors, my investigators, to start contacting other agencies to try and see, comparing notes. That's one of the things and one of the ways that we're going to try to find out who are doing these things. I think I may have mentioned that most, from what we see, most of these shootings that we've had have been from outside, people from the outside. So that's another reason why I want my investigators and supervisors to reach out to the other agencies and start working with them to try and curb this. The other things I've asked for assistance. You probably might be seeing other agencies here in the city. We're not here to harass anybody or anything like that, but we're here to curb what's going on, and that's my number one priority. You will be seeing people like Probation, Merced Police Department, our Gang Task Force. They're going to be here, and we're going to make sure that this stops, and that's my number one priority. We have redid our tip line. I'll give that out, but it's also out on our Facebook, the Livingston Police Department's Facebook. If you see or hear anything, I want you to call in. You can be anonymous. You do not have to say your name. Anything and everything helps. We take every bit of any information that people can give us anytime things like this happen. Our tip line number is 394-3640. Again, it's 394-3640. And please do me a favor. If you hear or see anything, give us a call. My number at the police department, I'm always open. You want to give me a call, my number to my desk is 394-5580. Please feel free to call me. It goes right to my desk, and I'll answer it. If you leave me a message, I'll get it on my phone. It'll go to voicemail, and it'll come to me directly if I'm off, and I will return your call. Other things is what we plan on end up doing is revamping and getting, hopefully we can get some of the communities involved in Neighborhood Watch. I know some people that expressed interest, and again, but it goes back to COVID. We kind of stopped because of that, but now we are going to start revamping that up, and I'm going to start reaching out to the individuals who actually wanted to do that to start getting that going. We need that citizen input. We do have a job. We go out and enforce the laws, but we rely on the witnesses that are out there and see the things. I've said this all along, and nothing will ever change my mind on this. You live here. I go home. I live in Merced. I go home. And you're the ones that see what's going on, here 24/7. And I want to hear what is going on. And how trivial it may be, or you may think it is, no information is bad information. Okay, I want you to call in. If it's either to our tip line or it's to me, whoever it may be, or whoever you may think at the police department that you feel comfortable with talking. We have to start going back and forth with the dialogue between the police department and the citizens of this community to start trying to put a handle on what is going on right now. I want to kind of go in a couple things, just so you kind of get an understanding that we do work on the educational side. We do still have an Explorer program that we do work with youth at trying to build up their self-esteem and give them a little bit of rules that they can follow by, and showing them how we do things and kind of getting them involved. If they don't have nothing to do here, they can come to the police department. They can help us out, and they learn a lot of things that we do that help them become better citizens. We also still have the MAPS program, which is mental health and police in schools, which we have an SRO that basically works with the clinician in the middle school, that works with youth that start to somewhat go a little stray, get in a little bit of trouble, and we try to hit that before it gets any worse than what it shouldn't be. So we try to curb that. That has worked pretty good. We've been doing that for the last 3 years. We still have 2 more years on it's a contract with the county. It's a grant. It's actually paid fully by the county, and we would continue to do that for the next 2 years, and this year as well. But again, COVID, there's no kids in school, so what they basically do is not only do they do security around the schools, but also they're out there. If a student isn't getting on their tablets during the day, we'll do home visits to make sure to see what is going on, why they're not attending class online. And basically, I didn't want to go through really too fast. I hope there's a lot of questions, because I really want to I want to hear from people out there that whatever issue you may be having, I can help. But I want to stress that, how important it is for the citizens to get involved. And I truly understand. I've been here for 37 years, and I've seen how sometimes things can be intimidating, and sometimes even to the point where people threaten. But I really feel that each and every one of us have a civic duty to watch out for one another. When we hear and see things, we have to make a phone call to the police department, especially when it's not right. We have to look out for one another. I always sometimes sit in bed and I kind of think about, what would it be like if everybody called into the police department anytime they saw something wrong? You imagine how much damper it would put on crime, and how much it would get out that to the criminal element that, we're not going to be able to do something because of the fact that people are going to call in on us. But right now, they know they won't. So they do these things. We really have to work with one another. You will start seeing It's already started. I have directed my supervisor to have our officers, you will be seeing them in the morning. Mostly on the weekends, you will be seeing our officers knocking on your door, introducing themselves, asking what your concerns and what your needs are. They're going to be giving you a business card. If you don't have anything to say, they will give you handing out flyers as well, kind of informational flyers on just a lot of things that go on within the community, the things that we do. But if you don't have anything to say then to them at that time, call them later if you feel that there's something that comes up. And I can't stress how important it is to basically let us know what is going on in your community. You know, I pretty much know, and I've been here a long time, and I pretty much know who, not all of them, but a lot of the bad guys. I've been in administration now for quite some time, but I rely on my officers and my supervisors, and I know they know who some of these bad people are. However, I think everybody knows that we need evidence to do things, and part of that evidence is witnesses and people who actually see things, and those are the things that I want. I want people to reach out to us and basically just let us know what is going on. Point us in the right direction. That's what I want. And help us out. Help us out, help you. That's really all I have at this point. I hope I have a lot of questions from people out there. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask at this time. You know what? No. I don't have my thing on. Oh, they'll hear it. Okay.
All right, so any questions from the public that might want to ask our chief?
Hello, Chief. This is Leticia. I have a few questions and just some comments, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I guess one comment is that I know that the people working dispatch have their hands full, and they tend to be really busy and dealing with a lot of crisis situation. But my experience when I've called is it's very uncomfortable sometimes and intimidating to make a phone call. And the other side of the dispatch sometimes, you know, they're not very, how do I say this, welcoming, if that even makes sense. So
Yeah.
It makes you feel like shut down, and it makes you feel uncomfortable to keep calling because you feel like you're going to get someone who's going to shut you down, or you're going to get someone that's going to be disrespectful. So that's one. Let's see. So I know you said that there were some of the shootings or things that have been happening are coming from people who are not in our city, or people who live outside of our city. So I'm wondering if, and I don't know, because I really don't know what that entails, but if traffic violations happen more often, and I know that in order for that to happen, there has to be, I guess, a reason for traffic violations to happen. But if they happen more often, with the likely of catching like somebody with, you know, a gun possession or warrants, you know, would that help? And is that something that the police department can do, like do more traffic violations? I don't know. I'm just asking because I don't know if that could happen. And one last question: how do you think that your department would, and entails everybody, a police officer, the dispatch, and I know that with you, I've emailed you and I've called you, and you're always emailing me back or calling me back, and I get that response from you, not necessarily from other officers. But how do we create that with everybody else in your department, where people feel comfortable calling and people have that relationship with the department where they do feel comfortable reporting something that they see or that they witness? Thank you.
Okay, to answer your first question, you know, we're not perfect. I'm going to tell you that right now. We're always learning. I'm learning. I learn all the time. The main thing, and I'm not going to make an excuse for anyone, is that anytime that you feel, because everything at the police department, everything almost always out on the street when the officers make contact with something is recorded. I encourage people, if they feel where we can do better, give me a call. I will look and listen to what's going on. If I feel that there's some additional training that needs to be done, we will do it. And we have done it. But that's where I want people, and I know I'm trying to get this out now. Anytime you feel that we can do something better, call me directly, because I'm going to be the one that's going to make sure that it's going to get taken care of. And especially when I was as a captain, when they called Chief Chavez, he would direct me and I would take care of it. I would make sure that things like if somebody was being rude or anything like that, sometimes it may have been, when dispatchers are very busy, sometimes they may come off as rude, because if they got a priority call, they're just going to tell you, hey, I got to put you on hold, and they'll just click, and it's done, because they've got to answer that priority call, and especially if you're on a business thing. But again, I'm not making excuses. But I want to know when those things happen. I tell people all the time, I need to know this. These are the things that are going to make my department better. For the traffic, yes, you're correct. One of the things is when I was working gangs, and that's the other thing right now, we will do it lawfully, but people that we believe that might be from another town, if there's any type of violation and we can pull them over, we will do that. We have every right to do that, as long as it's lawfully. We can ask them who they are. We can check their license. Then we kind of go from there. It's kind of like an investigative stop. Although we do have cause to stop them, but we can only hold them for so long, either for the duration of how long it takes to do a ticket, or if we're going to warn them and let them go. If you can't establish anything between that time, within probably I would have to say anywhere from 6 to 10 minutes, then they have to go. But yes, you are correct. Those are things that traffic violations have led to more than just an unregistered vehicle or unlicensed driver, have led to things with it. And they have this year, where we have taken guns off people just by this, basically because they had a license plate light out. And their last, their last one, again, I know a lot of the younger generation, and I'm not saying anything bad about my officer, because a lot of them are great. This is one of the reasons why I am pushing them into, I want them out there. These are the things that, when I was a young officer, it took me some time, and I'm going to be upfront with you. It took me some time to actually start talking to people, because, young people these days, it's probably hard for them to just go and talk to strangers. And it was hard for me as well. But once I started to do it, it came easier and easier, and it was something that I did with no problem. So that's what I'm pushing on them, and I'm directing them to do, the supervisors down to the officers, that we get out and start knocking on doors, because I think this will open up a lot. Not only will it open up information that we may gather from the citizen or the individual we're talking to, but I think it'll help the officer talk with people a lot more better on a one-on-one basis. Because you have to remember, probably a high 90% in the percentile that most of our dealings with people is in a negative light. Either they're a victim of something, we're pulling them over for something, or we're arresting somebody. Even though it's a victim, they've just been victimized, and they probably feel at the low of the low. If anybody's ever been a victim of anything, I've been a victim of a burglary. And God, I really didn't want to talk to anybody, and you just feel really bad because you think somebody violated you. So I want to get away from that and get to where we have a dialogue in a positive way. So that's where, hopefully, by doing this, we can curb that as well, where it's kind of harder for the officers to do. And also, when it comes back to supervisors, if my supervisors or any of the officers aren't calling you back, please give me a call, because I'm going to find out why they're not. Because whether people believe it or not, and it took me a long time to believe this, you do pay, for our job here. We do work for you, and they need to understand that, okay? Our job is to come here and just start writing tickets and just making everything a negative thing. We have to be there for you in a positive way as well. So we try to do that, and we try to balance that by having other events, things of that nature. But I need to get it more infused in my department to where we have more positive interactions with the public than negative. So hopefully that will curb that as well. I hope I answered your questions.
You did. Thank you so much, Chief.
Okay.
As others prep up, Chief, for some questions, how about if we start to talk a little bit about our collaborated, our collaboration with the schools and other agencies out there, if you want to elaborate a little bit further on that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, pretty much not at the onset, but when this started kind of getting a lot more, I started reaching out to my peers, like Chief Breezy at Los Banos, Chief, but my mind's just lost it right now, at Merced Police Department. No, he was Cavallaro, Chief Cavallaro. Sorry about that, Tom. But, Chief Cavallaro. I've reached out to the head of the gang task force. I started reaching out to a lot of individuals, probation, to start trying to work something out, because we're all having this issue. This is something that I'm going to see about bringing up, because there used to be things that we used to do back in the day where we would do countywide, and they were basically called kind of somewhat sweeps. But people that were out there that we were looking for, we did it on a countywide basis where every agency put officers to go out and try to locate these individuals that we know that are causing these problems. Those are things that I want to bring up at the next Chiefs meeting. I want to start working with them to try to work together, because, again, like I said, Merced, the Sheriff's Department, Antwater, there's none of us that are not having these same problems. We're all having the same problems, some more than others, and I don't want to get into them, but one shooting is one too many. So hopefully by doing that, we can work together. And again, I am instructing my supervisors and investigators to also work. I've gotten the names of the investigators over there, and our investigators are working together to try to come up with a collaborative effort to try and combat what's going on within our county.
Hey, Chief, how about if you talk a little bit about Magic and the task force, and what's the makeup? What do they do, and how do we participate, and how do they intervene in the
I'm sorry, who was it again?
Magic.
Oh, okay. Well, ours is our gang task force. Magic is out of Fresno, and they actually work with one another. And basically, what they do is they share gang intelligence between one another, and that's how we more or less we kind of tap into that to figure out, because you have to remember, gang members are pretty much they don't stick to one area. They will go from one city to the next. And that's how, if we don't work together and we're not talking to one another and we're not basically on the same intelligence system, we will never know who's doing what in the other city. Or we will never get, we can give information as to, hey, this is what we had. This is the description of the individual. If we're not talking to one another, then we don't get that out. And I've been where we've gotten that out, and that's what I'm instructing my supervisors and investigators to do, is to get that information out to them, because what they do is they're having a same thing with a person who's meeting that description. Now they start talking to one another, and then they come up with a game plan as to, hey, this is who I might feel who it is. And then that's how we start getting information and intel on who might be doing a lot of what's going on, not only in our county, but in neighboring counties as well. Yeah.
Any questions from the public they might want to ask our chief? Hold on.
I have a question. What is the process of being able to carry a gun?
What is the process for you to carry a gun?
Yeah, what is the legality of having one?
Basically, what I'm doing is anyone who passes, you have to go through a 16-hour course. You have to pass a background, which is a live scan, which does a personal history on anything that you may have been in trouble for. There are certain things that if you have been arrested for that are automatic disqualifications. If obviously there's other things as well. I mean, like if domestic violence, restraining orders, any type of mental health issues, things of that nature, where you can't carry a gun, that's automatic. But also, if I start seeing where there aren't automatic disqualifications, and I start seeing a pattern of things that where you may have been in trouble with low-level offenses, I still have that authority to actually revoke, or not revoke it, but not give it to you, and most likely I wouldn't, because what I want is if somebody's going to be responsible carrying a gun, I want to make sure that they're not doing anything, what they shouldn't be doing. But it's relatively simple. You call into the police department and make a meeting with Deanna Soria, and she will give you everything that needs to be done. But like I said, it's about I think it's like the fee. There's a fee to the training. There's a fee that we have as well. She can actually give you the numbers. I don't know what they are. She does the work, and I more or less just sign the paper. So, but you can give her a call, and she will explain everything to you.
In terms of
I have a question.
our collaboration with the school districts, for those of you that do not know, we have a new principal at the high school, and his name is Charles Jolly. And so we reached out to him. We also reached out to Andres Zamora. And so we have a great working relationship, not just on this topic, but on other topics. Yeah, if somebody has a question, this is a great time to ask.
Hi, I'm sorry, I have a question. Can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, hi. This is Vicki. Thank you for your time. So I was curious because earlier you had mentioned about early releases from jail, and I'm curious about recent crimes in the community. How many of those were committed by people who were either released early or released recently?
We don't
and
know.
Also, I'm sorry.
Ahead,
and then
a
second part of that is specifically regarding mental health. Has there been an increase in training to police officers to deal with people going through mental health crisis, considering people have been in their homes and the situation has changed? I just don't know if there's been any additional training to the officers lately.
We had just went through a mental health training, and I don't know the specific date. I want to say it was, last year, but don't quote me on that. I would have to look that up. We do a lot of in-house training and bring people in as well, and we also do a lot of online post-training. That's another thing that we're going to have to do as well, where we do interactive training through post, which is Peace Officer Standards and Training. And right now, because everything's down because of COVID again, they can actually go online, and they basically kind of put the officers in kind of little scenarios through videos, and that's what we'll be doing as well, because I've been seeing, it's not a spike, but I've been seeing a little bit more of that I shouldn't say a lot, but we've had a few calls within the last few months on that. And for your second question, can you repeat your first question? I'm sorry.
That's okay. My first question was, and I think you started to answer it, was how many of the people who have committed recent crimes been those that have been released early from jail? So you mentioned that earlier, so I was wondering if there was a percentage or a number that could potentially lead to the increase in crime?
Well, the arrests to date that we actually have, none of them were released. As for the other shootings and incidents that we had, one of the hardest crimes.
Hi, this is Pamela Tamez.
Hello?
Yes?
I was answering somebody's question.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I
I'll
didn't
call
mean to-
back on you here in a second.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, I was going on that right now, and ever since I've been investigating gang crimes, they're probably one of the hardest crimes to investigate. The reason being is because most people, and when it comes to people living in the area, they're intimidated and they don't want to say anything. Secondly, almost, and it's very rare, and I think I maybe have seen maybe once or twice where an actual victim of a gang-related crime, if they're a gang member, will not cooperate with the police department. It's just in their code. They just will not. It goes back to they don't want to be a rat. They don't want to be a snitch. And they don't care if they're a crime. They don't care if they're almost dying. To them, actually, by being shot and and living through it, it kind of gives them status in somewhat of a sense that this happened and they weren't actually weren't killed. So it's very hard to actually to investigate these crimes because a lot of people just aren't forthcoming with information. So actually, the rest of the actual shootings that we have had, that's pretty much a block that we are up against because people don't want to say anything, and we know they probably seen something or know something. However, they just do not want to cooperate with law enforcement. I hope that answered your question.
Chief, you might want to share also about the Alzheimer's sensitivity training that the department also has gone through.
Okay, that was back in, when was that?
If I remember correctly, I believe it was last year, towards the end of last year. That was the Alzheimer's Association.
Okay, yeah, we did have the Alzheimer's Association come in about a year ago, where they actually came out. I believe it was a 4-hour class on dealing with Alzheimer's patients and what to look for and how to deal with them. I think what basically, and again, I'm going to start pushing out, because we have to do it once a year, mandated, but pushing out that, when dealing with not only mental health, Alzheimer's patients, things of that nature, the main thing what our officers are taught is that they have to have patience with these individuals. Some of these people are in a different world, and they're not seeing things the way they should. They can be off their meds. There's a lot of factors that go in. I'm not a mental health worker, so I don't know everything about it. But I know that's probably one of the biggest things that we reiterate to our officers is that they cannot jazz up the situation, if that makes sense. They have to be calm. They have to talk to these individuals. It's kind of like back in the day when when I started out, we didn't really deal with a whole lot of mental health issues back then, although they probably were there. But one of our biggest things, and it took us a long time to figure this out. People on PCP, we were told, you have to make sure that individuals like that, now that has since come and gone, but one of the things it took us as law enforcement was you can't amp the situation up, because people that are on PCP are very easy to go off, and it's somewhat similar to what, like Alzheimer's patients, mental health patients, if we're not there in a cool, calm way, in a professional manner, we're going to end up pushing the situation a lot further than we need it to go.
This is a good time for anybody on the phone that might have some questions that might want to ask the chief.
Hi, this is Pamela Tamez, and I live on D Street here in Livingston. I have a question in regards to how, are there any Well, is there anything happening with finding out who is letting off illegal fireworks? It's almost an everyday occurrence here in town, and they're so loud, they rattle windows. I mean, it's like constantly happening, and I'm wondering if the chief is aware of that. I'm sure he is, and if maybe something, I know it's probably impossible to find out who's doing it, but it's just gotten to the point where it's become more than an annoyance. It's become a disturbance with the community. So, yeah. So I'm just wondering.
No, I understand where you're coming from, because where I live, it's 24/7 too. But you need to just keep calling us. We need to keep going out, because eventually we do catch people and we do cite them. So the only way we're going to get across to these people that continue to do this is, and the only time, and there has been some times, because somebody came to me the other day, well, during 4th of July, said, well, you just took he was an upset citizen. We just took the fireworks and then left. Well, when I looked into it, the reason why, because we were so busy and another priority call came in, that's why we left. But those people were dealt with. The best thing to do is try to give us an exact location of where it's occurring. Sometimes, most of the time, if we're not busy, our officers will go out there, they'll sit, they'll try to see where it's coming from. But yes, it is hard. It's very hard to find them. But we do catch them from time to time.
Okay.
And
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And just to add a little bit in terms of what the chief said, we want to continuously educate the community about what constitutes illegal fireworks and the fact that, this is not allowed. So you'll see from time to time, especially during the fireworks season, we send out in different languages, notices that basically letting people know that fireworks are not allowed, and these are the types of fireworks, and that citations will be issued. And thank you for that question.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Anybody else have any questions?
While they think about some other questions, in addition to, we've been talking about shootings, gang violence, things of that nature, what are some of the other, I know you talked a little bit about domestic violence, that there was an uptick in domestic violence. Maybe you want to talk about that and other, things that have been going on that you've seen an uptick?
Can I go where at? Oh, yes. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that, other than the shootings that have almost doubled from last year, I truly attribute this to probably COVID, because, there's a lot of people that are out of jobs. They're probably hurting for money. They can't pay the rent. There's probably some people that it's hard for them to put food on the table. So what this ends up happening is, right now we've seen a big spike in domestic violence. I don't know for a fact the other agencies. That was one of the things that we did not discuss, but I have seen that after talking to my officers and supervisors, that they said that this has definitely has taken a toll as well. COVID has taken a toll regarding that type of activity. One of the things that I do want to tell everyone that's listening out there is that anytime you ever hear anybody arguing, anything of that nature, again, call in, let us know where it's coming from. If you don't want to give your name, you don't have to give your name. It's not required. But you never know, by you calling in, you could be saving someone's life. And that's just the bottom line. Whether it's somebody who might be getting beat up, somebody who might be getting assaulted by their partner, husband or wife, or being shot at, whatever it is. And even if you hear shots fired, I try to tell people, because sometimes when we have investigated some of these crimes, we've gone back, and what we do is we'll canvass the neighborhood. That's one of the things that we do, and we ask everybody. Then we'll go back out and we'll canvass it again. But you'll be surprised how some things tie in when people tell us, well, I heard these many shots at this time, because there are a lot of other things that we do when we start investigating these crimes that kind of put the puzzle together. And so as trivial as you may think it may be, let us know. Whatever you heard, you saw, whatever it may be. I saw well, I didn't think anything to do with it, and I get this a lot. There was a car driving around an hour prior, okay, but then you tell us, or you saw that, maybe like somebody told me they saw this car down by one of the gas stations heading in this direction. So we start looking at surveillance video. Now, those things, they tie into one another, I'm telling you. Any information that you may have, and I'm telling you, give it to us. And don't ever think that you're bothering us, because you're not. And again, if you come to the police department and try to give us information, and you feel that you may have been treated that way, please let me know. And like I said, I will rectify it. But that's what we're there for. We're there for you, and we want to hear what you have to say.
Is it the time for anybody that might want to ask the chief some questions? Me?
What? Hello? Go ahead.
For those of you who are on the phone, if you guys can put it on mute, that would be great, so we don't hear the background noise. But Chief, you might want to talk a little bit about, RV parking, truck parking, kind of those scenarios here in town. Educate the public a little bit.
Okay, just so you know that tractor trailer parking, that's probably one of the biggest things that we are dealing with right now. There's really only one place to park tractor trailers, and that's at Travel America. There are some areas on the side street, but the reason why the city has the ordinance, because I remember back in the day prior to having that, how Main Street used to look, because drive through, and I mean, it wasn't just one, but would tear the street up. So this is why the ordinance was passed. But I just want to reiterate, because I know I get complaints from time to time why I got a ticket. But what it is that there's no tractor trailer parking within the city limits. If you are, there's an exception. So, that as to RVs, you can have RVs, but they have to be back away from the curb, out of sight. They can't be up by the curb. You definitely cannot have people living in them on your property. And I know one of the other biggest things, and I had somebody today call me about abatements. If your car is inoperable, if it's got broken windows, it's wrecked, things of that nature, not just dirty, you can't have those things in your driveway, even though you may understand it is your private property, and I know it's hard for people to understand. But this isn't something that we just go in and we just take. We send letters out. We give them ample time. We're actually required 10 days to give notice. We leave a notice at the door. We send you a letter in the mail to both the registered owner as well as the property owner. And then I can't even remember the last time we took one within 10 days. We almost always give people extra time, up to a month. And again, it goes back to crime deterrence, because the thing of it is that when you start having, broken down cars, it's been proven that it brings crime into the neighborhood, because it more or less brings the the look of the area down. So that's why we try to kind of make sure that it kind of just stays, looking nice. And that's but we will always work with everybody here within the city. And our vehicle abatement program, our officer, Kurt, he goes out of his way to work with everybody who's actually, who needs extensions and things like that. We just don't go out and just start, okay, we're going to do it. You got 10 days. We don't do that. We will always work with people. And right now also, we have tour bus parking at the Travel America on the side street with a yellow. But we have relaxed on that, and I think they have taken the signs down. So they're allowing some of the trucks to park over there. Because again, it's not that they're part of us, and they have places to park and do. We have off on that, and then the other thing is right now because of COVID, that's another thing. Anybody else?
Yeah, Chief, in terms of a parked car out in the street, how many days can that parked car be there before they actually have to move it?
Actually, on the street, you can only park a car in a certain spot 72 hours. Normally what we look for, you cannot park any cars that are unregistered on a city street. You can't park them in your driveway, but you cannot park them on the street. That's pretty much an automatic ticket because we're all required per state law to always register our vehicles. If they are non-operational, if you do that through DMV, you can park those on your property. But again, if you're leaving cars, and we normally don't go by the 72-hour unless it's something that's like it's wrecked or something along that nature. But it is 72 hours on the street. The other thing is just so people understand is that I've seen this happen quite some time where people will get in wrecks and their cars pretty much totaled, and what they'll end up doing is they'll bring it to the house. We actually have, and we normally will go to the people, and I can't even remember the last few times. I do remember the last few times we gave the people time to actually get it, but we have the authority and the right to actually take that car right then and there because now it's a public safety hazard because you got mashed metal, you got broken glass, and the car is just it's wrecked. It doesn't belong there. So if you have a car that has been in an accident, have them take it to an auto body shop, to some type of service repair place. They have your insurance look at it to see what it's going to take to take care of it, or if you're going to total it, whatever you're going to do, because you cannot take it to your home, either on your driveway or on the street.
All right. Anybody on the line that would like to ask a question to the Chief? Well, one of the things that we're doing as the city is that we're always constantly looking at bringing in resources from the outside. And one of those resources is really looking at different grants. So we typically look at justice grants that the Department of Justice, and then there's other agencies, sometimes under HUD, sometimes under the Department of Interior. There's different types of entities out there. And so when we see one that we can be competitive, that we can go after, that we can meet the demographics and all the different components that they're looking for to be successful, we try to jump on those grants. Chief, if you might want to talk about, the COPS grants that we've received over the years and how that's benefited us.
Yeah, we've been on the COPS grant for several years now, which actually we applied through, I think that's through the federal government, I believe, correct? Yes. That actually paid for one officer. again, I don't even know, I can't even go back as far how long we've actually been on it, but we've been using this grant for several years. We are also on a MAPS grant through the county, which again, it's mental health and police and schools, which pays for an officer to be in the middle school to work with kids and basically to more or less before they start getting in trouble in school, we try to head it off. So instead of immediately suspending the kids and immediately taking any type of action like that, we try to work with them to try to make sure that they get back on course. Not only do we do that through a clinician that's assigned to the county, the officer has worked with kids, try to make sure that we keep them in school where they should be. Because when you suspend a kid, where are they at? They're probably going to be at home. Their parents might be working. So what are they going to do? They have the ability to start running the streets. And then again, we start getting into, they start running the streets. And what ends up happening, they meet the wrong person, a gang member who tries to recruit them into a gang. So if we can keep our kids in schools, that's the best way and the best thing that we want. And we want to try to continue to do that as much as possible.
Chief, I have a question.
Yeah.
Actually, it's more of a comment, but maybe it will help you and your citizens and residents in Livingston. In other jurisdictions, we've had a situation where people call the police because there's a neighbor that's causing problems. And we found that it was best to have the calling party say whether they wanted to be approached by the police after the incident was taken care of. Do you have that situation here where you call, where people that call in can ask to be, don't have the officers come to my house because it'll create problem in the neighborhood?
Yes, we definitely ask the people if they want to be anonymous. They don't want to get involved. That's almost always asked on any type of call. Do you want to be contacted? Because if they do, because they're going to be a witness in something that they called in. So we expect our officers to actually go over there and start talking to them. If they do not want any contact, we won't contact them. If for whatever reason we have to follow up on something, I have not anybody come into me and be irate about us doing it. It's normally over the phone. We will call them back and ask them a little bit more detail because maybe there was something we need clarified. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the chief?
I'm just wondering about the safety of, is there a ground out there to have speed bumps put on the road? Because lately I've noticed that there's been a lot of fast cars just zooming through the community.
I heard you. Is there a what again?
Like
do we have them? No, we don't.
Yeah, because we have
Well, we are going to start. That's one of the things we finally got our radar trailer back. We are in the process. I had brought this up, and this is the process to actually do. I'm training that Sergeant Camp in the BLM of training a few officers to start working radar again. We did come and get radar certified. We haven't had them certified in quite some time. Even we have not had a speed survey done in the city in quite some time. There are still areas that we still can work with. So that's going to start very shortly here, where we're going to get that ramped up again, and you're going to start seeing them. It's going to probably an educational period at first because we want to just start, hammering people and just giving them tickets all the time, but depending on the situation, obviously. But after that, what we're going to, and we did make flyers that we are going to hand out to stop people that during that period. After that, then it's But bottom line is shame on them if you end up you're speeding, especially in school zones, residential, things of that nature, because we're going to be out there and we're going to start issuing citations if you can't curb your driving habits or your bad driving habits. Yeah.
All right. Any further questions from anybody in the public or on the phone for the chief? If there's none, then we very much appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to the public, hear from you, let you ask us questions. Again, we'll continue our public safety forums into the future, and again, allow you a platform to be able to communicate concerns, ask questions, things of that nature. I want to thank Chief Soria for the opportunity here. I apologize. And we'll continue to be listening to you. And any closing comments? Sorry.
Yeah, I just have one thing. I really want to stress that with everything we've talked about tonight and how important it is for us to watch each other's back. It really is. Again, when you go to sleep tonight, just imagine every one of us just looking out for one another, and how much we can get accomplished and how much we can curb the bad things that are going on. And again, like I said, one bad thing is enough bad things. Just watch out for one another. If you see something, call it in. And again, the tip line, I just want to say it one more time, that it is 394-3640. If you don't want to give your information, all you have to do is basically tell us what is going on and where it's going on at, or the time. Obviously, if it's an emergency, call either our business line, 394-7916, or if it's an actual emergency going on at the time, dial 911. But again, our tip line is 394-3640, and I want to throw my number out one more time to my desk. If anybody has any questions after this, is 394-5580. Again, it's 394-5580, and I want to thank each and every one of you who asked the questions tonight. And I hope this continues, and I hope I get a lot of calls and I get more questions asked, because like I said, we can only learn from one another by asking questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Good night.